News at 5 starts right now.
Hey, sir, I'm going to have you step out of the car for me, okay?
Accused of driving drunk
I do not support drinking and driving. I don't drink and drive.
and found to be stone cold sober.
I just didn't understand how someone who was completely sober could be led away to the jail.
A new lawsuit accuses Loveland police of wrongfully detaining more than a dozen people.
We're really only at the tip of the iceberg right now.
The president hopes to lower prices at the pump by tapping into oil reserves.
And Colorado wheat farmers struggle to keep up with the spike in demand.
Farmers don't get to pick our price. I couldn't say if we're going to be able to break even.
And we want to quickly get to breaking news at 5. A lawsuit has been filed against Xcel, claiming the company had a role in causing the Marshall Fire. The suit was filed by an unnamed couple and a Boulder company, and it claims Xcel power lines and utility equipment were a, quote, substantial factor in the cause and origin of the fire.
Now, a specific cause has not been confirmed by the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. Xcel insists its equipment's properly maintained and says it has seen zero evidence that its power line started this fire.
Also breaking, we just learned the NCAR fire in Boulder is now 100% contained. Crews were able to keep it at 190 acres. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us at 5. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. Glad you're with us tonight. Well, today another lawsuit moves forward against the Loveland Police Department. This time, it claims that officers have a history of wrongfully handing out DUIs.
And this new complaint details 20 cases in which drivers were either cited or arrested for drunk driving and then were later cleared of charges. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon is joining us live now from our newsroom.
Colette, you spoke with the man behind this new lawsuit.
Yeah, he's been dealing with the fallout from that arrest for more than 2 years now, but says this lawsuit is about more than just his story.
We believed you, Dad, right at first.
On a sunny afternoon in Fort Collins,
This can't be right. This just can't be right.
you can find Harris Elias talking about his family.
3 kids plus my girlfriend's 2 makes 5, so we're practically the Brady Bunch.
A dad who always told his kids about the dangers of drunk driving.
I don't drink and drive.
But in early January of 2020,
Hi, how you doing? Good. Hey, Officer Gates, the reason I stopped you...
the conversation changed.
Each time I drive through Loveland, which I do some days, I'm terrified.
This body camera video shows the night Elias was accused of drunk driving.
You don't want to answer that question? Okay. Well, I smell the overwhelming odor of alcohol coming from your vehicle.
The case later dismissed after a blood test showed there was no alcohol in his system.
I just didn't understand how someone who was completely sober
So, the reason I asked you out of the car...
could
is
be
obviously
led away to the jail and embarrassed and humiliated in the ways that I was.
Wrongfully charging somebody with DUI also destroys their lives.
With his attorney, Sarah Shelkey, they're suing the Loveland Police Department, filing a complaint today, which details several other instances of alleged wrongful DUIs, all similar stories, and many showing blood tests absent from alcohol.
While we cannot comment on specific cases, especially those involving civil litigation, we want to make it clear to the public that we are open and transparent in our work.
Earlier this week, the Loveland Police Department called a press conference announcing a review of their policies and procedures involving DUI enforcement.
And every day in America, district attorneys dismiss cases. That happens. That does not mean that the person arrested was falsely arrested or unlawfully arrested.
But when it comes to the lawsuit, they're looking for a number that sends a message.
In the millions, 1.5 million is what we're looking for.
More than the money, Elias wants to see reform, meaning no more incentives for any kind of arrests.
And that someone needs to be willing to stand and have a fight with them.
The attorney for Elias says the next step is for the city to file an answer to that complaint. Once that happens, then a court date could be set. Those with the city tell me the officer involved in this case is still with the department in the same role. Live in the newsroom, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
And we'll be following up, that's for sure. Thank you, Colette. And the attorney behind this case, Sarah Shelkey, has and is representing multiple other lawsuits against Loveland PD, and that includes the arrest of Karen Garner. Remember this, where the city ended up paying her family $3 million.
A new round of peace talks scheduled for tomorrow between Ukraine and Russia. Also, we've learned Russian troops are now leaving Chernobyl and the area surrounding that nuclear power plant after soldiers got a, quote, significant dose of radiation from digging trenches in that highly contaminated site. Russian troops seized Chernobyl, you recall, during the first few days of the invasion. Well, today, Russian President Vladimir Putin also responded to reports from the White House claiming that Putin is being lied to by his own military advisors. Putin said in a statement the U.S. simply doesn't understand him and his decision-making.
And today, President Biden announced a plan to release 1 million barrels of oil a day from the country's strategic oil reserves to help with surging gas prices. He's also putting pressure on oil companies to increase supplies.
This is not the time to sit on record profits. It's time to step up for the good of your country, the good of the world, to invest in immediate production that we need.
The national average for gas price hovering around $4.20 per gallon. Colorado's average sits at $3.99. And tonight we are going in depth on oil and diesel prices and the impact the prices are having on Colorado. You can watch that tonight on Denver 7 News at 10. The cost of food climbed 1.4% last month. This is according to the U.S. Commerce Department. That's the highest in nearly 2 years.
And with prices unlikely to come down anytime soon. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta headed east to see how rising costs are impacting Colorado farmers.
We're a hard red winter wheat farm.
Wheat is a cash crop in Colorado. But right now, it's not driving as much money as you might think, and farmers hoped.
There's some similarities to walking a tightrope.
Calcivic Farms in Bennett has been around for more than 100 years, producing wheat that makes its way to dinner tables across the state.
Hard red winter wheat's used in a lot of your breads. Most of our crop will go to Denver to the Ardent Mills in Commerce City and gets milled into flour, might go to Panera Bread, Papa Murphy's Pizza. So we are glad a lot of our stuff stays local.
Despite being thousands of miles from Russia and Ukraine, Calcivic Farms is feeling the impact. The two countries produce a lot of wheat, but are focused on war. Normally, a scenario like this would allow local farmers to reap the benefits, but that's just not happening.
Farmers should be dancing and celebrating, and it is a great thing. And we want to spin that as a wonderful thing that's happening at the expense of someone else. But along with that increase, we've also seen previous to this market increase, fertilizer costs going up by 400%, if you can get it. Price of fuel, we've all seen that at the fuel stations, right? When we're filling up, that's hitting our situation as well.
Fertilizer, fuel, and labor costs all up, all important parts of farms necessary to make them run. But it's not just that. The Calcivics don't have any wheat to harvest and sell right now. This is what their fields look like. They plant their crop around September, allow it to grow over the winter, and harvest in July.
If you can capture it and you're in a position and you've got crops to be able to capture that price hit, it's great.
And of course, there's the lack of moisture. That means less bushels of wheat, which means smaller paychecks for farmers.
The Calcivics say they still don't know how that increase in wheat commodity price, the increase in fertilizer, fuel, and labor costs will pan out for them, but they plan on growing the crop despite that. In Denver, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
And today, a group that advocates for the rights of Colorado farm workers filed a lawsuit in Denver's district court over the state's new overtime rules. Now, it was just last year that Colorado became the 7th state in the country to require overtime pay for farm and ranch workers. That overtime pay doesn't start until November, and it's structured much differently than your typical 9 to 5. For the first 2 years, overtime won't kick in for farm workers until an employee has worked 60 hours a week, and that will gradually lower to 48 to 56 hours, depending on the size of the employer. Now, this new lawsuit seeks to get farm workers to the same overtime standard as any typical employee here in Colorado. Today, the Feed Colorado food drive wraps up, so here's your chance. We have volunteers taking your calls for donations right now.
And these donations will help buy food for people all over the state through Meals on Wheels and the City Harvest Food Bank. And with so many people in Colorado unsure of where their next meal is going to come from, help is always needed.
With the start of the pandemic, with people not being able to hold down jobs like they did pre-pandemic, with people now trying to return to the workforce and make ends meet, the need has grown, and it's a real challenge for too many Coloradans.
All right, so grab the phone. Here's the number to call, 303-777-7492. That line's going to be open until 6:30 tonight. You can also donate right now on thedenverchannel.com/feedcolorado.
Last year, students weren't able to come out and play on the playground as much and have that kind of social interaction.
Recess is for reconnecting. Meet the group helping ease kids back into everyday life.
If they're scared to join a group of kids or scared to join a game, I'm there to encourage them.
And shooting for the stars. A Boulder native will soon make history
as the first Black woman to live and work on the International Space Station.
I'm just honored to be a small part of the legacy of Black women astronauts who've come before me.
And honoring what makes us unique on this Transgender Day of Visibility.
By being visible, we're asking our allies to stand with us